the meeting to order. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's start with approval of the agenda, and it's been brought to my attention, we have one item to add to the agenda under new business. The payout of accumulated vacation, sick, and personal time to former employee Robin, what's her last name? Christensen, thank you. So we can add that as B under new business. Are there any other noted changes to the agenda from what was presented in our packet? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as been amended.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to approve the agenda with the one addition. Any other discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, agenda approved. Which then takes us to next item, which is approval of the minutes of the November 27th regular meeting.
I got two things. I was just wondering if we could add for minutes before they're approved, the word draft at the top. And then when they get approved, add the word approved. That way, if someone picks up a sheet, they know that they were draft minutes, and then they know after we've gone over them and you've made the corrections that they're now approved. Would that be okay?
Well, it has it on already.
What does it say?
Proposed and subject to board approval on the first page.
Oh my gosh, I apologize. I was looking at the second and third page. Okay, we'll scratch that, although, okay,
Draft is real clear though.
that's fine.
Right.
Um,
Or putting that on each page.
Maybe I
Well,
don't.
yeah,
part of the
that
header.
little,
So I apologize, it was there, but I guess I was focusing on this, so then my content thing's on the second page, which is where I've been thinking about.
now she makes a good point, because if you put that draft on, it's real clear on the second and third page.
So I will do that.
Oh, thank
And
you.
then I won't. Okay, I'll do that, but I won't add it as a whatever to the minutes,
Sure,
okay?
makes no difference
Yeah.
to me,
Okay.
yeah. But under new business, the last paragraph, I was wondering if we could also add in under meeting room policy discussion. We really focused a lot on that policy. We were talking a lot about how nonprofit groups are the types of groups that are allowed to use this room, but whoever uses it has to be open to the public.
Okay.
And I just thought maybe we could add, currently the policy permits nonprofit groups that are educational, cultural, civic, and content to use the room and must be open to the public.
Okay,
Is
I'll
that
do
okay?
Okay.
Just a small little ditty.
Any other comments on the minutes? I guess I'll add, or I have a question. And that is just with regards to, it's partly the draft approved. What is our policy? So I'm assuming that this gets removed once they're approved. And then the minutes are posted on the website for public access?
I pass them along to, and then they post them. I don't post them.
Okay, but they are posted on the
But they
website.
should be posted, and I need to double check that to see if they're up to date
Okay.
with this.
And the reason I ask is, under the Open Meetings Act, which I've been spending way too much time in for other reasons, there's a requirement that approved minutes are made available to the public, and we do that by putting them on the website. But there's also a requirement that draft minutes be made available to the public within 5 days of the meeting. And I'm not sure our draft minutes are made available to the public on the website like the approved ones are in that time period.
But they are available, if someone came to the library and asked Helen for them, they
Yeah.
would.
But who in the public knows that? Is that policy stated anywhere?
Well,
I
no,
mean-
but I'm just saying they are available
Yeah.
to somebody. But if the
But I-
policy is to put it on the website, then we should probably talk about it.
If our policy for approved minutes is to put them on the website, and that's how we're making them available to the public, I think the public's expectation is that that would be our policy unless we document it somewhere else, potentially on that webpage, as to
Yeah.
how
Well-
to get them.
Well, I'm not gonna take her back and forth. I mean,
Right.
it is, they are available to the public
Right.
and done in a timely fashion.
And does the Opens Meeting Act indicate how?
No,
It just says made available to the public.
Okay, so then her point is well taken, is available
But
upon
then we need,
upon request.
Yeah.
but we need to communicate that, because as the public, you go to our website, you see, oh, here are the approved minutes. Oh, the
Sure.
draft ones must not be available because there's nothing that says where to get
Could
them.
we put that on?
We could. I'm just saying that I think
Yeah,
we need to communicate how we do that so that we're complying.
the
with
how
what we
would
need to.
be just
So
add a
it's
little
5
phrase.
days?
All of 5
Is
days.
it-
Within 5, can you use the
The,
question?
the date for the draft is more than the approved ones, but I don't remember.
Do you know what that is, Ellen? I,
It seems like 5 days, but I'm not sure, or is it 8 days?
Right, right.
5 rings a bell.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably 5 business days.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
business days on whatever the numbers
Yeah,
are.
so
okay,
you
we'll
wanna-
make sure that that gets,
And the approved minutes haven't been posted for a few months, so I guess we'll.
Yeah, like I say,
Yeah,
I'll double
okay,
check
yeah.
that out.
so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes if there's no other discussion.
Is there support?
I'll support.
Motion support. 2 times, to approve the minutes with that one correction. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Public comment.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
I did before you got here.
Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
Okay. Then we can move on to correspondence.
we received, a letter and a check from the Packaging Corporation of America for $2,000. Julie and I went and accepted that last week. There was a picture in what day's paper, Helen? Yesterday's paper, so that was nice. And then we had a staff meeting, and as you see up here, we talked about being a team and working together as a team. And one of the things I had, I kind of took from Barbara's thoughts that we shared at our last meeting. And so I had the staff write a little note to one of their coworkers, thanking them for something they did. And so it was interesting. And then we also, I had them write down what they thought a team was. So I received one note from an employee, so I wanted to share that with you. Deborah, I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate everything you do for this library and the patrons. You have made so many positive changes from the very first day you walked in. Patrons of this library have noticed and have responded well to the modifications. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and inspiration, especially to me. I like being a yes librarian and providing a more compassionate approach to our patrons. Happy anniversary.
Nice.
That's it.
Nice
And that is
note.
it. Okay. Financials. We have many things in front of us.
Yeah, I killed a tree on the way over here. But you have the final version of the September, October, and November financial statement. The only change from the preliminary draft on the September year-end financial statement, if you look at the balance sheet, you'll see under accounts receivable, there's a $42,000 receivable. That's the amount of overpayment to the county for the retirement plan that was calculated, and we recorded that. Deborah thought it was farther back, and she was gonna research that some more, and we haven't connected on that, so I don't know where that stands. But right now, we know that they owe at least the $42,000, which I think was discussed at another meeting, that they're going to reduce the bill $10,000 each month going forward till it's paid back.
Okay.
So that's really the only change, other than the format, which is on the next few pages. The income section did not change at all, but if you start off with the expenditures, we start off with staff expenditures. And this all came about in order to make it easier for Deborah to put the information into the form that goes into the state. So we always want to make her job easier whenever we can.
Why not?
Yeah. So we start off with staff expenditures, which is basically everything under the personnel, and it comes up with a total. And then the next section starts on the next page, which is collection expenditures, which then is made up of subscriptions, programs, books, AV materials, and then it gives a total collection expenditures for the period. And then there's a capital outlay section, and then other operating expenditures, which is everything else that will appear on the program. And then the last section is the transfers out, but then it's all under other operating expenditures. So there's basically just those, 4 categories that she needs to report by and gives the information in that format. We still kept the overall, like, fees and services, kept that group together, so you can see a total for that group, but it's just under the category that she needs to have it for to report it. So there, as there was a change, it wasn't really a major change, I would say, as far as that. So,
So David,
mhm.
real quick, so staff expenditures, collection expenditures, programs, books, and AV materials, those are the categories that changed?
No, under collection expenditures, you have the subscriptions, programs,
Oh,
books,
okay,
and then AV materials, and then you'll see a total.
right,
So that's a total,
Oh,
that's one
total
category that
collection.
she has to
Oh.
report.
yeah.
And then capital outlay is another category. And then other operating expenditures, which is really encompasses everything else,
Okay.
dealing with the operations of the library.
Thank you.
David, do we, or Deborah, do we know when the audit's scheduled? Have we heard?
They were supposed to come the day, 2 days before Thanksgiving, but they didn't show up, so I haven't heard anything.
I emailed and gotten no response. They have all of the information they need. They have the QuickBooks backup, all the supporting documentation that we generated.
So they could actually be working on significant parts of it now and just doing the on-site stuff to be determined.
Correct.
I did hear that they're gonna be here for the county part of the audit the second week of January.
Okay.
So they might take
Might,
us out of
probably,
that.
I would guess.
That's what they did last year, is they made contact regarding some information. We hadn't gotten them all the information yet when they were at the county level, they were actually looking for it. But they may be ready to wrap it up and just have final questions at that point, I would think.
David, since this is the year end, I see let's see, well, here, I'm looking at the month. I assume we're not over in any category, and is there any other adjustments we need to do to prepare it for, doesn't look, miscellaneous is over, total miscellaneous, for example, we need to,
The one budget item needs to be adjusted, it should be 330,000 instead of 300,000, so it's not really
okay.
over. That's a change I need to make, I thought I made that and I guess I didn't. So no, you're not over budget.
okay, yeah, okay. Okay.
In total reality, when it goes into the state, you got 1 or 2 small line items that are over budget a little bit, they're not gonna come down on you. It's just, they're looking for something where the people aren't even making an effort to budget.
Came in nicely under budget, so.
So Dave, so I was just looking at over 100%. So the online subscriptions, 132%. Anything stick
Well,
out?
there's the month and then there's the year-to-date. The year-to-date
Oh, okay,
is the one that
I'm
you
looking at
really want to look at.
Okay.
And I guess it's more the category, I mean, there are some that I see that are 101%, 102, you know.
And that's not a big
But
deal?
that's, as long as the category as a whole is.
Yep. It's a category-based assessment. I mean, some of the positives were Pina on page, she must have page number off.
Yep.
But on the statement of, for the year ended September 30th, the statement of revenues and expenditures, the penal fine income from the court system was actually about $9,700 over budget.
It's kind of reversing a trend, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So everything else was pretty much in line. And really, other than property taxes, the dollar amount that you receive is really a small portion of your overall budget for the other categories. Then there is the October statements, which again reflect the cash position as of October on the balance sheet, the receivable that was still outstanding, and then accounts payable, everything is in line there. And then we get in for the 1 month ended. As you can see, this is actually a previous year comparison. You can see even penal fines revenue was up in 18 compared to 19 by quite a significant number. I mean, it was up 39%. So there is a difference in trending, and I don't know why. I don't know if the courts have gone away from doing service type projects or stuff like that, hours of community service compared to fines. That's what had happened before. They were going the other way. I guess with the economy being better, supposedly, they're issuing more fines. Payroll was down significantly. So everything else is pretty standard for the first month. When you get to for the month ended October 31st, 1817, you'll see that this year you had a loss of 69, almost $70,000. Last year it was 55. Part of that, though, if you look at, was a transfer out to the capital improvement fund, which was over 10, so that takes you back down to 59. So you're right in the ballpark. It's not anything major differently from last October to this October as far as the expenditure side.
What was the transfer out?
They're like
Okay.
doors.
So, looking at the next set of is basically for your budget. And, I mean, there's no alarming items there as of yet. So everything's good with that. And then the capital improvement fund, which the last two pages are split somehow. You got, $311,000. And I couldn't remember when the revenue that was assigned last year was just supposed to be assigned for, reclassified for assigned for specific projects, is that correct? The 270 that was transferred, it wasn't it wasn't for a specific project, but assigned for projects.
Yes.
Okay. And that change I have to make, but that'll be done in the December statements. Anything on October? If we look at November, we can go on and see the various cash positions. The receivable still hadn't been used at that point, that's offset by the county. Then accounts payable and accounts payable to the county for payroll, that's all pretty good. Then again, when we look at the next page, the revenue expenses this year compared to last year, here again, penal fine is up again significantly over that of 17. So here we still continue with an upward trend of those than what we've had in prior years. And that's basically the difference in the revenue this year to last year as far as the current month. And the expenditures are pretty much in line with what they normally are in this time of year. Then when we get to the budget versus actual, again, you can see what the October is and then what the year-to-date budget is and what percentage of the budget you are to date. I mean, through 2 months, you got 10% of the staffing personnel cost. Then if we look at collection expense, you're roughly 20% of your budget for collections has been spent. I think this is going to be easier because it's right there what you're spending on collections as compared to, we got books here this year, do we have to add the three together? So I think it's going to provide easier information. Then the capital outlay is there. And then the other contracts.
Okay, ILS support, is that, or?
It's a program.
That's the system, the check-in, check-out.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually a program which is quasi capital outlay.
And that's billed once annually, right?
Yes.
Yep. So that's on that. So your total expenses, you know, so you got a loss for the first 2 months of 159. The prior normal was averaging about $100,000 deficit each month, so it's been reduced down quite a bit. Which with that being the case, based on what was done to the transfer into the capital improvement fund, there's more than a good safety net in your cash position to cover it. Property taxes are collected and remitted.
Do we start seeing some of those trickle in December or?
You'll see some, yeah.
Some, but January is where the majority get it.
Yep. Because actually, the bills went out, I don't know, sometime. They just come, they come
Toward the end of
automatically.
November, I think.
Yeah, toward the end of November, 1st of December. So yeah, some people will go right over and pay, and then they're supposed to disperse them out, so we'll see.
So if, let's say, because I mean, sometimes there are tax reasons of getting them into a fiscal year, December, some people do that.
Mhm.
If someone pays them on December 31st, will we still see that as a December income, or did they not process them to us in the same month they're collected?
Whenever they're received, they process that month and then it comes to next month. So you should see everything that came in December. Now if somebody wrote a check December 31st and they put it in the mail and it doesn't get processed till
Right,
January,
if they received it.
it won't be until a later. But if they actually process it December 31st, You'll receive it in January.
Okay, we'll receive it in January, so then it will be reported on January's.
We do a receivable based on what the county is going to disperse to you.
Okay,
Because that's usually done before we finalize the financials, so it'll be reflected in December's
yeah, okay,
statement.
okay. So
It's
even though we
you-
receive it in January, it's for December, so therefore, on a
Yeah.
referral basis, we're
Yeah.
reporting in December.
It seems like to me it's somewhere in the $80,000-$90,000 range. It's not a big number,
No, but,
but historically, I think that's what it has been.
okay.
So I guess, if the board, as we look at this, if there's some fine tuning that wants to be done, or if Deborah wants to fine tune some ways, these appear underneath them, you can get with her and she'll get with me and we'll fine tune it to make it.
Overall, I think it makes a lot more sense and is easier to read, although because it's a change, it's gonna take a while to get used to. It's like, oh, that's not there anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah, I do too. So,
And since we moved money into capital improvements, into the general balance, you know, is this a good time of year to, you know, assign some to the van fund and the roof fund? And, I mean, we can do that at any time.
you can do that at any time,
Okay.
yes.
But I think based on your earlier comment, you're gonna put it into unassigned for projects.
Yeah,
and then
assigned
we
for
can-
projects.
Yes,
Right, yeah.
and then we can.
So it won't show unassigned
Correct.
$270,000.
Right.
But if you want to detail it out more,
Then we can.
Yeah.
you can.
And we can just through simple board action, create new project lines in there if we wanted to further
Yep.
specify things,
Yeah.
like the van and the roof are two examples currently.
Mhm.
And I think we used to have a technology line in there that I don't think we have anymore.
Right, no, there was a technology line. One of them was for some cable system or something, I can't remember what it was. But yes, there was technology in there too.
So that's something that we can use as a tool to help us understand what these monies are assigned for as we kind of come up with those plans.
Yeah, and we might, I know the van had its incident, not that now it's back on the road and everything, but it'd be nice, since we have 6,000 in there, it'd be nice to add a few more. Like a new
Well,
van.
for every asset, maybe other than this building, it would be nice to have kind of an expected lifespan and kind of be working towards having enough money set aside when that expected lifespan is done. We don't have a lot of those type of assets, but the van, the roof, I'm sure there are other things that we're not even aware of that are, you know, more than a few $1,000s that maybe should be planning for, so.
Yeah, as far as life expectancy, usually the van, if you go back and look historically, has been replaced every 10 years. So it's got a long life compared to the expenditure side.
And how old is it? Do we know? It's- I mean, I don't wanna
I mean,
be
I know
surprised.
We were talking about it one day, but I forget what
Probably,
we.
I mean, you've been here, you know, 5 years, we know it's older than that, right? None of
That's
you-
true,
So.
that's true. It's probably it, midlife crisis.
Yeah, could be, you know, hopefully not crisis, but. Yeah.
Helen, do you know?
You don't know him? No, I,
It might be one of those things that surprise us and it's like, it might be 9 years old. and we
Right.
don't even realize it.
I was thinking it might be close, because I know Pam and I were talking about it one day.
Right,
So,
Closer to 9?
I think it might.
8, 9, something like that, I'd say.
so, this is probably something we should be thinking towards if 10 years is kind of an average, which makes sense for any vehicle, just from a reliability standpoint. Yeah, you don't want to be stranded in the middle of January in the middle of Back County
Nowhere.
Road going to Wellston. Yeah. Okay, we have 3 sets of financial reports that Dave has walked us through. I'd entertain motions to approve them.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to approve the September, October, and November financial reports. I'm assuming that was your motion?
Yes.
You weren't going to do them individually?
Yeah.
Okay,
As a
for all 3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the administrative report.
Oh, I got one more thing I was supposed to look up for you, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but, I said I would look into the situation with the remuneration for years of service,
Oh, yes.
and with the change from going from a gift to cash. And my intuition was right, cash is taxable. Now, it should be included on their W-2s, but I guess I'm telling you that it should be. The county is handling that, it's their responsibility. So if you want to make sure it's done right, I would inquire. If you just want to let them go with it, whatever they're doing. I mean, it's not material for an audit situation. So the auditor's gonna go, you know, it's $200, okay? He's not gonna mess with it. And probably wouldn't even be on the board if they, you know, it's really not handled right. And even at the county level, if it's a couple $1,000s, it's not gonna be in their materiality level, so the auditor's not gonna say anything. So I'm just telling you, once you put cash in somebody's hands, no matter what it's for, it's a taxable event as an employee. There was an exemption for gifts for years of service.
Okay. Thank you for doing that research for us.
I would think what they're gonna do is just on their monthly bill they do for us is attach that $200 on there.
Yeah.
What, how they deal with it with the employees, I guess we'll find out.
That's why you hire them to do the payroll stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Mhm.
Administrative report, which was enclosed, the written report in your packet. First off, Deborah, do you have any additions?
I will be off next week. I'm going to Vegas. I'm leaving on Sunday for the week, so I'll be back January 2nd.
Okay.
The library is closed Monday and Tuesday next week, and Monday and Tuesday the following week.
So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
What was the, under technology, new email service?
Oh, yeah.
Nick had done some research. It's through Gmail is what it's through. I believe it's a free service. But we were having a lot of issues with the Innotech that we were using. I wouldn't get emails for a couple of weeks. It was awful. So Nick did this and got everybody, some of the staff had a different email address than manasteelibrary.org. So using this Gmail service, everybody is manasteelibrary.org. So it's going much better. So
Okay.
that's what that is.
Good, and
Mhm.
that would, if I had been consulted, that would have been the path I would have
There
recommended.
you go. Yeah, I forget what it's called, G Suites?
Yes,
Something like that.
It is what most small businesses really tend to adopt,
Okay.
just because it's easy and it's
Yep.
outsourced, you don't have to worry about it. Further, now that you're kind of all in that system, I would recommend that you would explore using that for all of your file storage needs.
We are.
And I think once you do those two things, you'll probably discover that the servers we have that we're paying for maintenance on are probably mostly unnecessary. And maybe that solves some of those other
Okay.
issues as well. Because I think for the needs that you have, pretty much everything should be able to be handled through those cloud services under Google.
So, Deborah said you received a towel quote from Haglund's.
Yes.
What was the quote? What was the amount?
Not under.
Yeah, I'll do that under the,
I guess.
oh,
yeah, I've got that on my,
That's okay, I hope, yeah.
under library projects update.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I'm sorry, okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay. Yeah, the big one, we received the Selma check, 28,555, so a little more than last
I
year.
was gonna say that's,
Yeah,
I mean, my recollection is it used to be about 20,000 and it seems to be
I
growing
think
a little bit.
this year we had 26, a little over 26, so, yeah. Our Christmas program at the Armory was huge, 201 people.
Oh,
I'm glad you had it in the armory.
We are very glad because we got thinking about it. It was the weekend of the sleigh bell. And everybody parks in our parking lot to go to the Ramsdale. So had we had that here, we wouldn't, you know, where would people park? So it worked very well. Yeah.
That's probably the largest attendance for any library events, maybe ever.
Actually, our Halloween was here and it was, I guess, a nightmare because there were over 200 people.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why we thought the Armory is a great place for these bigger programs that we're doing because, yeah, it worked well.
So Deborah, when you had the event, did it, was it well, displayed that it was a library event and not an armory?
Yes, what we did, we
Events,
made our
banners.
flyers and we just put, I don't know if anybody saw it, we put, the party's gonna be so huge that we have to have bigger space, so it was at the Armory.
Do we have a banner or anything that you can put up when we're at the armory?
Well, that's what we were talking about, we needed something, but we need to get that done because we don't really have anything. So that is on
I'd
our
like to see something like
Yeah,
that, a
yep,
nice,
yep.
before you do something off-site, that there's a nice banner that says library.
And then I also did talk to Diana with the chamber and asked her who we contact for the sleigh bell weekend because now this is the second year I've been here for this and we've never been contacted if we wanted to do an event. So I'm going to do some contacts in January to make sure that we get it in their brochure next year, you know, because I think, you know, we did get a 200 people, but had we been in that brochure, who knows?
More, yeah.
You know, but I think it would be nice, so.
Very
yeah.
nice.
Deborah, who is in charge of Sleigh Bell now?
Oh, I forget,
Is
they
it
have their own
DDA
committee.
or is
It's a
it?
DDA event.
Yeah, and then they have like their own committee for it or something,
Right.
don't they?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So,
Rachel somebody?
yes,
Rachel
Rachel
Brooks.
Brooks.
Okay,
It's, once you're in, then you're contacted each year, are you going to, but it's
Right.
really getting in, so.
right.
And the other thing
Rachel
is,
Brooks would be the right
Okay.
contact point on that for next year.
I heard there were 20,000 people here for Sleigh Bell this year.
Felt like it.
If you were downtown at all, it felt like it.
I would like to go back to personnel. My question when I was reviewing this was reception, question mark. The feedback we got from you is that it was a very positive type of process. I got the staff to thinking. Are you planning on doing periodic meetings like this?
After I had attended that workshop a couple months ago, I feel at this time, this approach is probably the best way to move forward, at least for, 6 months or so, and try to get, the staff to work together more as a team, rather than, the meetings being this laundry list of don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Like I said, no one has said anything about the meeting, but I thought it went well, coming in, being positive and working together.
Where I was going with this is that this would be an opportunity after, say, 6 months, to get feedback on how they perceive the team. And then that'll give you clues on where work is needed and where it was successful. You mentioned the Dropbox, I love that, and I love the signs around it, it makes it very easy to say, oh, it's an indoor Dropbox,
Yeah,
so thank
yeah.
you for that.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and then that way the doors get closed, and so it's gonna be interesting to me, all I could think about was the heat bill. Because you won't be heating that back entry with the doors open, so. But I love the Dropbox.
And thank you for taking care of the Unite, some Project Read.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
Yep.
I mean, other than the one-liner here, maybe, is that, I guess, your perception, is that program functional? I mean, I know they've had challenges, relocation, change of staff on that, but I mean, is it moving forward, and are we now able to direct people appropriately? I mean, I guess the last part is yes.
For what?
For Project Read.
For Project Read.
Right.
She sent flyers and business cards, so hopefully everybody, knows now.
Knows.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think they've kind of rebooted themselves a bit better, and, have gotten things going again. So, yeah, I think they are functioning and a very useful group, so.
Any other questions on the administrative reports? Or the statistics, which are really part of that? Hearing none, we move on to committee reports. From this, I'm assuming no committees met
No,
since our last meeting?
I believe several of us made plans for the second week of January.
Old business then, library projects update.
Okay, so library project updates, facilities committee is going to meet on January 10th, where we will start, start making plans for 2019 and get our projects underway. I have received 2 quotes for the tile, and one came in at $7,225. And the other one came in at $5,330. So we do have those that we can take a look at in January. Next up, I would like to do a RFP to get the library painted. I haven't received anything from the Spicer Group, unfortunately. I did email them last week. So hopefully in January. As several people noticed, the indoor Dropbox arrived. Our new shelving for the JCD books.
I saw that too.
Do you like those?
I do.
Take a look. The juvenile books on CD were on the old metal shelves. They were around the wall out in this room here. All those shelves are gone. We now have rotating ones. We got that all completed. I think it really looks nice. I know some of the staff have commented and said they really like it. So that's done. Take a look after the meeting. We have our first set of bookshelves arrived, and Pam is working on reading through the Michigan collection and getting that on that first set of shelves. So, like I said, we have our facilities meeting in January where we will hit the ground running.
Those new shelves, are they out or are they still in?
They're out.
Okay.
They're set up. They're
Okay.
there.
They're right there.
Okay. Okay, I gotta
Well,
get down there.
they're I checked this morning, and it looks like I said, Pam's working on the Michigan collection, so it's but there are books on there.
Okay.
So yeah.
Are we with your tile quotes, I mean, those are for the same areas that we spoke about? I mean, I'm just wondering, it'd be great to get a recommendation at our January meeting to give to the board to move forward on that, right? Do you think the quotes are ready, or do we need to?
I have the
if we need
quotes.
to contact,
Yeah,
or-
I have the quotes, so we can look at them in January. If you ladies have any questions, then I can go ahead and contact them. I know they're both, one, Hageland's actually recommended waiting until spring because of the entryway where it's cold, because the doors are always opening. The tile down, going down into the basement is cold, so that's something we can talk about.
Yeah, it's the way the mastic says.
So a prospective timeline on that is the facility meets in early January, making a recommendation to the board at our January meeting.
there are two pieces to this. One is
Yeah.
the asbestos removal, the removal of the old tiles, and
Yeah.
then two is the installation of the new. Do we have what we need on the removal side?
Yes, remember we got that back in August.
Is that still valid? or
Well,
are
I'm
we
gonna have to contact him because I know I had talked to him and I just wanna make sure that he has all the areas. Because I had said, you know, we had forgot about the kitchen, so I had emailed him. So I will contact him in early, and make sure that this is
So if the
good to
board
go.
approves in January, potentially this could maybe happen in February or March, maybe more likely, which is getting into spring-ish.
Mhm.
But, and again, because this is gonna require closing
Right.
the building, the sooner we get it
Yeah,
done
before
in the slow
summer.
part of the
Yeah.
year would be better.
Yeah.
So, but it seems like that timeline, at least in my head, makes sense and works.
Deborah, can you remind me when we first asked Spicer to give us a quote for this structure?
The first time I met with them was July.
Oh, boy.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then it was, remember, I don't think it was last month, but I think it was October that they were actually here doing
the on-site piece.
doing the on-site piece. And so, yeah, so they had told me 4 weeks, but then that was, you know, just getting the the quote to do the assessment was, you know, a long time. So I will contact them again and hopefully, you know.
So there are other engineering firms, and I'm just wondering, I know we put out, but like Wade Trim does a lot of work in this area. They might,
I mean, at this
I don't know, what
point,
point do we like give up on them? I guess is what I'm
Yeah.
wondering.
And, yeah, just say, yeah.
I see Sean Middleton often. I will say something to him.
Yeah, he's my contact.
Yeah, he's the manager of the, here. And I'll say something to him, but gosh, I hope you don't mind, I'm gonna kind of say, should, you know, is this something you actually want to do?
Right,
Because
can you give-
your
yeah.
actions are kind of
Right.
showing that maybe you're not so interested in the project.
but
Is that all right?
also, given they have done it on-site, given that, they're probably still gonna wanna be paid for the work they've done.
Right.
I don't
But,
know.
so, I mean, well, I mean,
Yeah.
we could basically reach out to them and saying, you know, if it's gonna take any longer, we're not gonna pay you at all, so get your act in gear
Right.
if you actually want this.
Right, right.
And then,
I was gonna kind of say something similar, but not that we're not gonna pay you, but I was
Well,
gonna
I
say.
think
Yeah, you don't say that. But, you know.
Do you want me to say that?
You know,
I would. I mean,
Okay.
it's business and, you know,
Yeah,
they're
it's
not
like,
doing
come
a good service
yeah, I
because
mean,
I would have a hard time being required to pay them 3/4 of it, not getting anything, and then paying someone else to do it. So I don't wanna pay two people,
Yeah,
but I think we're probably somewhat obligated because they have
Done some-
knowingly
they've
done
done
some
good.
stuff.
but just
So,
need the right
but if-
course,
if-
5-6
if they wanna walk
months
away
is
from it,
reasonable.
Okay, walk away from it.
how
and then
about
we'll-
just some communication?
Well, when do they think they'll have a report? I mean, they should be able to, we should, hopefully we're on a schedule somewhere where they could say,
Maybe
they
I'll
say
start
end
off
of
with that.
January. Yeah, we've been waiting, you know,
Well,
Well,
whatever.
they told me 4 weeks when they were here.
Well,
You know,
Did you really
okay.
mean 4
Well,
months?
weeks is about 5 months.
all right, I will let you guys know
Tamara,
what happens.
Thank you for running with that, yeah, that's good also, yeah.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Okay, so at this point, our focus, as it has been for probably a year now, is the asbestos and the tile, and at least those pieces have finally come together. The proposed teen area, waiting on the Spicer work. And then the shelving, and then, even though we've talked about it, painting is kind of a newer thing in that mix, but it certainly fits in with all the things we've talked about. I guess carpet, is that in the mix anywhere?
Well,
Because-
we have the quotes, you know, what we did room by room,
Right,
because I figured that would be easier. But that's going to pretty much go hand in hand with the shelving, because you don't wanna take the carpet out and then,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So it's going to be another one of these things of lining it up like the tile and the asbestos,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
so,
But it seems to me that those are things that are more readily attainable from contractors than some of the things we've been struggling with. So we could potentially see movement faster.
Oh,
maybe.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay.
But yeah, with the facilities committee, that'll be something else that we'll probably bring to the board in January, is moving forward with the show
Okay.
and that piece of it, because like you say, it's something that's.
Right. And I'll throw in there my little pet peeve, is lighting.
Yes, we have talked about that.
So, again, if you're doing the carpeting and the shelving and that room is basically not usable for a period of time, maybe the ceiling tiles and the lighting can also be replaced at that same time, such that the work we started on this level in the basement can fill in the main areas in between.
Does anyone remember, if, I know that it was talked about, but did you guys get, quotes for lighting? I know that was removed, some of that was removed from your HVAC project. Were there quotes that were done that we can, or no?
Not, I'm thinking they were more engineer estimates.
Okay,
That, but, well, actually, no, that was bid out as an alternate option in that project. We just decided not to move forward with it. Or was it? It was an alternate, but it was just the levels that we did. I don't think we ever investigated doing the entire building as part of that project. But I mean, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but I think, I would say that we basically have a style of tile and a style of lighting that I don't see a reason that we would change. We would just continue this throughout as opposed to each floor looking different. But then, I mean, you know, catch areas like that, which still has the old stuff in it.
Sorry, I didn't realize this room is new.
Yes.
Ceiling
The
and
lights.
the
And that's why we had
lights.
some of these accent lights. It was just, it was much more industrial before. Not that this still isn't.
Oh, you mean you added on the
Yes.
drop lights?
Yeah.
Ah,
And, you know, touches like that in the main level, you know, big kind of ones in the, might fit the era of the building a little bit too. So I think there are some interesting things that could be done. Obviously, that costs a little bit more, but I think it's appropriate because we're always struggling to balance the historic building with modern functionality, and sometimes it's little things like that that can tie kind of a boring looking LED technology ceiling, but making it fit a little bit better.
I think we were rather pleased with the softening of the sterile, you know, commercial look
Right, right.
by just the 4 lights we had in.
And also moving from the 2x4 tiles and the longer lights to the more square, just
And we compared them, and they throw enough light, just
it's
equal
actually better.
better than what we had with the fluorescents. And of course, the electricity bill went down immediately.
Okay, good. New business, copy policy and color copies. That was also included in our packet.
So on the one page is the old policy, the one-liner there. Computer printouts are 25 cents per sheet and photocopies are 20 cents per sheet. That's your current policy. So the one that I did up, as everyone knows, we got a new patron copier that they can now scan to a USB drive, which is a wonderful service. And we also have the option where they could do color copies. And this is a wonderful service most libraries offer. And I feel that we should offer this service. So on the new policy, what I would like to propose is black and white copies. So currently, what they're doing, if it's a computer printout, they're charging 25 cents. And if people are making a photocopy, it's 20 cents. I just want to make it a straight 25 cents, whether it's a computer printout or it's a copy. Make it simple. And then color copies, 50 cents per page. Then of course scanning to a USB drive is free, it doesn't. And then also, this isn't anything that was in a policy anywhere. The newspaper, articles, and reference materials, it's been a common practice that they give patrons first 5 copies are free if they want to make a copy from a newspaper or reference materials that don't get checked out. So we just kind of carried that over into this new policy that we're recommending.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the color copies at 50 cents, will that cover the cost of the toner?
I think so.
Well, and a follow-up question is I've always wondered how these kind of fees were set. I mean, I think 50 cents, probably I've seen that elsewhere, but I'm just wondering, did somebody do an analysis to say?
I mean,
on a
you could,
retail paper
I
or the
just
life
look,
of the cartridge?
I just look at various libraries and look at, the standards. I mean, this is pretty much standard.
I just think 50 cents sounds like a lot.
Oh, it sounds like a little if you go to
No, a
Jack
little.
Pine.
How much
It's
is
cheap,
it at
it's,
Jack Pine?
I'm sure it's.
I think it's
$50.
like 75 cents.
Yeah,
or
yeah, because color copies are expensive,
Yes.
so, yeah.
I mean, we don't get a lot of requests for it because we, we do have Jack Pine.
Right.
It's not like we're the only copy center
Oh,
in
yeah,
town.
it's a bar, yeah. Yeah, we're not, and we're
Yeah,
not
this
trying
is
to
not-
take away business from Jack Pine.
No,
It's
no.
just for our people
A
using the
service that if
library.
people want.
Well, yeah, of course.
You know.
I'm hoping maybe it could be 25 cents, but
No.
I just wondered if
No,
someone
I
did
think
an analysis
then,
of
I
it.
think you get, then people might abuse it if you're that cheap.
Yeah,
You're
okay.
really taking too much business away from
Okay.
them.
Somewhat competitive, but not competitive. I mean, we're not
Good.
encouraging traffic off the street. What we want is something that's a really nice plus service for our own patrons.
Right.
I've got a question on what the definition of the newspaper reference material. So when it says 5 copies, is that talking about 5 sheets of paper that you have copied or 5 copies of the article? Because the article could span 15 pages.
I think it's five pages.
Okay, because
Five pages.
I read 5
Five.
copies of the article are free, as opposed to 5 pages.
Should we change it to 5 pages? Would that
Yes.
sound better?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Deborah, why are we looking at this here at the full board instead of having it go to the
Because it
committee
was
first?
something that I needed to implement right away.
Something fast?
And
Oh.
yes, I apologize for not doing that, but it was something that,
Oh, no, it's okay, I was just wondering.
Yeah,
I
a
figured it must be
service
something.
that, we had already, we had a couple patrons, know that we have that available, so. And I
Wanted to
said,
use
well,
it, and it's like,
I better take this to the board because when I found the old policy, I was like, okay, so here, it doesn't reference color because it wasn't a service that had ever been offered.
So you're still keeping the rest of this page in the policies, we're just taking out that computer
Yeah, we're
printout
just,
line and, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
like this is a lot of miscellaneous policies, so
Right.
as we move on, a lot of these will become their own, like, we're labeling this copy and printing policy.
So-
Whereas right now, it's just under fees and charges.
So the only thing you're really asking us to do is add the color copy fee and change the black and white copy fee, and then we just change a little verbiage. The rest of it wasn't to be reviewed, right?
Yeah, no,
Oh, okay.
we're just
I'm
pulling,
sorry, I got a little confused. I
no,
was
we're
looking
just
at-
pulling out this copy policy, is all we're
Okay.
doing at this point.
Okay. Well, then I make a motion to, if there's nothing more, but to approve the changes to the copy and printing policy as presented
I
today.
support it.
okay, we have motion support to approve adopt the new copy and printing policy. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, then our added agenda item, the
payout of unused accumulated vacation, sick time, and personal days to Robin Christensen. Does everyone have this
No.
to look at?
No.
I'll let you kind of
Um,
walk us through it then.
Robin has 52 and a half hours of unused vacation time from 2018. And during 2018, what they're doing is earning their vacation time for next year. So for 2019, she's got 129.75 hours. So the total amount payout is $2,762.91.
Okay.
So the board needs to approve that so that we can get that paid out.
I'll make a motion that we pay out that amount.
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion for the payout of $2,762.91, which is the calculated accumulated vacation, sick, and personal day for our former employee, Robbie Christensen. Is there any further discussion? And does everyone understand, I mean, this, for those that have been on the board for a while, this is something that happens for every employee when they leave. And basically just, it's really what our obligation is to them, but we formally have to approve it, so. Hearing no further discussion, would you take a roll call?
Tamara?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Okay, that is approved. To sign it. That's appropriate. Okay, board trustee comments. Barb, do you have anything?
I will not be here at the meeting next month because I will be returning from
Okay,
Oh,
well,
good.
enjoy your warm weather break from winter.
Canada. Thank you.
Anything we need to know about the handouts from today?
That's
No.
the only comment, so.
That's for you. We had briefly, we're talking about the strategic plan and talked about a master plan. I found the master plan, so thought I would share that with everyone so that we all know what's on it. I think I might have handed this out before, but this is a wonderful tool through the Library of Michigan for library trustees. So take a look at some of that. And then last month we talked about the longevity service policy. So this is the policy that the county put into place, the final draft. So there's a copy there for you.
And I still question why library employees fall under the county policy. Just because I don't see anything in here that calls out library employees versus or who this policy applies to.
Well, when I brought it to the board last month, we were asked if we wanted to participate, and we decided at this time that we would.
Right.
Moving forward, next year, we could pull out and create our own.
Right.
So Lisa did say that we could do that, so moving forward, if that's what we want to do, we can certainly do that.
I guess I would request the policy committee to look at this in the coming year, to see if this is the policy we want to. Again, I am uncomfortable paying for something, but yet the county gets the credit and recognition.
That luncheon is today.
Yeah, and I'm supposed to go.
Are you going? I'm going to.
Oh, okay, so yeah, I thought, we could at least shake the person's hand and, I mean, I don't know.
And if I saw the list, there are 2 library employees. Pam, I know, so I was 1. and
5
I
years,
thought-
and Nick is 10 years.
Okay.
And then, and I'm not sure what they were doing for Pam. Pam is longest serving employee of 36 years.
Right, okay, it was 3.
So that's,
Okay.
and
Who
new.
was the other one besides
Nick,
Nick, yeah, Pam.
Pam is longest serving employee
Right.
of 36 years. Just those 3.
What, there's the third.
2 Pams
Two
and then.
Pams.
Oh,
Two
two
Pams.
Pams.
That's
Oh,
the-
okay.
Oh, okay,
Confusion there.
sorry.
Oh, I know.
Didn't get the.
I didn't get it first.
Okay, Tamara, do you have anything to add?
No,
Joyce?
No, I don't.
I guess I'm unsure where we stand with doing our strategic plan and this, so, I know we talked about it a little bit last month, and we may have set all of that in place, but did we or did we not? Okay, I mean, this was a piece that you have found that
Yeah.
actually, does this even have a date?
See a lot of 2013s and 2012 fiscal year and 2014.
Yeah,
So this was
and-
probably done at
So-
2012 with
I think that's what it was.
that exercise.
because you're right, Barry, we should be trying to line up a person, and we don't even have a budget for it, so we don't know really what we're doing. And it was the hope that we do like a full public input type process for it. So that's not going to be super cheap, but, you know,
And
it's
it's not
gonna take
also
some
gonna be
time.
super fast.
No, it's gonna take,
Right.
and that's good, we
Right.
wanna capture summer people too, I think.
And I will start working on that, but if, maybe Tamara, maybe you know someone that we could,
And really, is it the board responsibility more to work on that than, you know?
yeah, we
just
kinda
thinking,
talked
you
talked
know,
about that, because if
that's
you look at the strategic plan, so like I said, I'm not sure what committee would this
Well,
be,
Chuck is the one who took care of it, who reached out to me the first time. He's the one who kind of led getting that.
But I think part of it is, it is a board activity
Yeah.
that traditionally we've asked staff to help facilitate, coordinate for the board.
Well, I could, in my spare time, I don't know folks who do this, to be honest. I mean, we could spend some time doing some research on that, but, could write the RFP at least for it. And while we're kind of thinking about that, then doing some research on, maybe all of us could think about firms or people or somebody to come in and do it for us.
And are we clear on the scope of what we want? I mean,
No,
that's
and I
the thing,
think
before you do an
that's-
RFP.
Well, I
Yeah,
guess,
that's-
how about this? It would be like the scope of work, not the it would be what we would transfer into the RFP. I just figure it's just like a draft. But just to run it through you guys, it's a full strategic planning process that includes multiple public engagement pieces for multiple demographics, patrons, so youth, you know, the whole gamut. And I also think maybe looking at going out to the branches too, not just here to do public input. And something creative. I think creative, and maybe would be incorporated into a community event so that we get more people involved too, so that might be really interesting. But, and then, and looking at what we've already done and how we're trying to incorporate it into the evaluation of the director, and also get something measurable in it. So that's just at the top of my head, what might go into the scope of work.
And I think if any of you have looked at the original 2012 one, that was, I think, as close as we have records of the type of thing that I think you're describing. Because
Right.
that really did do a lot of those outreach events and did interviews
Sure.
with people of different demographics and classified that. I mean, there's a lot of interesting both comments and statistics in that 2012.
There is.
But it's 7 years old now, and well, our community's evolving and changing. So, you know, renewing that is, I think, part of the idea. And now that you've had a year under your belt to kind of stabilize things, really having that input and taking us forward with all of the ideas, skills, experience you bring to the table, kind of meshing the community with our director's strengths and knowledge, I think really propel us forward.
I think there's been, if we could tease out the differences between the 212, where library was at that time to where library is now,
Mhm.
there's been quite a few dynamic changes that there is nothing to relate to back in 2012.
Right.
And I think it would be helpful to line by line, or itemizing, dot point, whatever,
Mhm.
mention that, because this is where we are with technology, and this is where we are with philosophy of the library.
Yeah.
And this is what the actual physical library now looks like. That's a big difference.
Mhm.
I would think in this process, obviously finding someone who can do a strategic plan, but having someone who also has done it for libraries before, I think it's, we're a different animal than other
Yeah.
public entities.
And maybe Cheryl Mays would have some suggestions.
I'm sure there are
That's such a good
resources
idea.
Yeah.
that are available. Obviously, there's not gonna be anyone local
Yeah,
who does that, but,
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Okay, so
Okay.
I heard you volunteering to
Yeah, but I'm not,
draft something a little bit.
Yeah,
But I also
yeah.
think you and Deborah are probably doing this jointly. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
I did, at a smaller scale, the library that I worked at in Colorado, we did it ourselves. So I do have experience, and there are a lot out there where you can just, borrow
Mhm.
from other libraries. It's just, I think, your biggest thing is, make it for today's library. But just doing a survey, getting it out there, that's your most important piece. Because that's where you're going to get all of those answers of what are people looking for. And it's really interesting, the level that we did it at in Colorado, just, the responses that we've had from the people. And it really does provide you with a vision of what people are looking for, and then you take that and then you create that new strategic plan. Okay, this is what the people want. And you can get that from, just a simple survey.
yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about it. How about it? I think it'd be nice to do something a little more dynamic.
Yeah.
Let's think about it.
And I guess I have a question is when you say survey, what do you mean? Because to me, the word survey means, either electronic or paper, and I'm, specific questions. The ones of these that I've participated in recently, like for the school system, have been in more of an interview format that kind of goes off a script, but can get into other areas that weren't necessarily intended, and often I think some of those things pull out things that you don't anticipate, because when you're writing the questions, you only have your view, but sometimes someone can say, here's my real issue. It's like, oh, that wasn't even on the list.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
And I know a lot of libraries too are doing those community meetings.
Right.
Like we're talking about going out into our branch
Right.
libraries,
Yeah.
have these community meetings set up where people can come and you can have those conversations.
Right.
Well, and I wanna capture even the people who aren't current users
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
library, so that's why
Yes.
I'm thinking doing a pop-up thing at a downtown, a DDA event, or maybe a Bear Lake event, or Onakama, where you're just getting people who are out
Mhm.
attending Arcadia Days, and then
Right.
they don't, so, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is very helpful.
Yeah, because if we only listen to our users,
Yep.
and we know our users are a small percentage of the total population, what's different about that set versus those that we're not currently engaged with, and what can we do? Because ultimately, all taxpayers in the community are
Yep.
paying for this service. All should be using it as they need. We're not necessarily touching enough people.
We may gain some insight as to where the non-user is at.
Right.
Their understanding, resistance, needs,
Yeah.
most importantly, the needs,
Yeah.
what they think it's not providing, but they haven't asked.
Right. Okay. So that was my comment. That takes us to the end of our agenda, with the exception of the proposed closed session for executive director, or performance evaluation. I am assuming our executive director is asking for a closed session, which is one of the requirements to go into a closed session.
Yes, I'm asking for a closed session.
Okay, we need a motion of the board to do that and a roll call vote to go into closed session. And likewise, to exit closed session, we need the same. And then if there is any further activity outside of the closed session, that will happen in continued open session once we're done, and then we'll formally adjourn at that point. That's kind of just how the closed session process works. I don't think there is any board action that needs to happen back in open session, but I'm not.
Other than to close the meeting.
Right, so,
So I'll make a motion to move into a closed session.
for the purpose
Oh, I'm
of,
sorry, for the purpose of the executive director performance evaluation.
okay. Huh?
Second, report, in motion, we pick who we want in the closed session.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, thank you.
okay. So,
Who did I say?
the board?
The board.
Board
Um,
and
Well, yeah, yep, the board.
Deborah.
Deborah, are you staying?
Oh, okay.
Goodbye, thank you.
Okay.
And Deborah.
Thank you.
Everybody have a nice
Bye,
Christmas.
David.
Thank
you.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Helen, would you do a roll?
Oh, do we do?
I approve.
Yes.
I seconded.
Yeah, she's taking roll call. Oh, roll call.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't-
Yes.
I didn't hear her. Joyce?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, you cleaned up that motion. That was really